Yeah, so up until property number 10, including the home, so 9 investment properties. So we only use our engineering and banker. My wife is a banker, serviceability. Yeah, so my strategy when I first started was simply just to get into the market. So the first property that was 10,000 above what I think the market value was, because there was literally the same better property selling for 370. So I bought this one for 380, which is not better, but more expensive.
Yeah.
So, and that was because, you were starting out, so you're trying to get into the market quickly. And it's been rewarding. The property is worth almost 700 now, even though I bought it above market, right? So,
Yeah.
so that was first, and that's the same with the second one. When I bought the third investment property, that's when I started to don't want to overpay. I want to get it below market and start training myself that way. And subsequent purchases always like that. You try to buy it below market. Now it's coming. Fast forward to now, I'm trying to either focus on the cash flow properties, which hopefully were more than likely positive cash flow from day one at 80% LVR. Or I buy in a market that is early, like Melbourne, regional Victoria and regional New South Wales. That is still not yet certain, but the signs are showing. So,
Welcome to Get Invested on the Property Hub podcast channel, the leading weekly show for Australians who want to learn how to unlock their full self, health and wealth potential. I'm your host, Bushy Martin, and each week I go deep with the best investors, experts, leaders and founders to find out what it takes to break free from the grind, discover freedom and to live by design. Subscribe now and join me and get invested in the life that you really want. Let's get started. Hi, friend fighters. Welcome back to the concluding part of my ongoing conversation with Richard Bharata, where we unpack our very deep dive that dissects the nitty-gritties, along with the good, bad and ugly of Richard's rapid property portfolio accumulation, where you're going to hear and learn firsthand how someone just like you has managed to go from below zero to property hero by securing 13 properties across 4 states in just 4 years that are now worth over $9 to $10 million and counting. And Richard's example is a very important one to share because, quite frankly, I get sick and tired of hearing that it's now too hard and too late to build your wealth in property. Yes, things have changed and they always will. But where there's a will, there's always a way, as Richard quite clearly demonstrates today. So stop telling me and yourself why it can't be done and why now is never the right time, because there will always be some self-justifying excuse. And start following the example and learning from those who are continuing to do it. Because what it really comes down to is how much do you really want it and how much are you prepared to do in order to make it happen. It won't come easy and it's unlikely to come quickly, but if you're determined, keep an open mind, get creative and stick to it relentlessly through thick and thin, then you're going to make it happen. And don't let anyone convince you otherwise. As you remember from last week, Richard's an early self-retired engineer, husband, father, and a very motivated investor who's turned buyer's agent now to help you achieve your lifestyle goals with property. So I challenge you to get invested in your future self now and take some action today, because if the example that Richard's about to reveal doesn't inspire you to make the move, then nothing's going to. So get ready to get motivated as we get invested and continue my great conversation with Richard Bharata. Let's dive into your investment journey with a focus on property. And I guess the first and most obvious question around that is why property? Given that you started to dabble and look at the equities market, why property? Why did you decide to invest and what triggered that interest in property?
So yeah, at first, share was the thing because it was really easy. There's no barrier to entry. It's like saving basically if you put in the ETF. And then why property is because as I was learning about shares, the YouTube algorithms and everything will start eating you, and then we'll talk about properties. Like for some reason, I got presented these property things, and then I watch a YouTuber in America who basically do what we're doing here, but more aggressively because you camp over there. And then I started learning and doing a comparison, which one is better, property or shares. At first, I didn't really get it. Why the property that is assumed to grow at 5% is better than the shares that are growing at 10, 15%. I didn't really get it. Like, and properties, you have maintenance, it's real thing, it's illiquid. And then I only came to the leverage, the concept of leverage, basically using someone else's money through the bank. And that's why the 5% growth in property would and very likely to overperform the 10% or 15% in shares. So that's the property.
Let's just touch on that for those that are listening to us who haven't delved into property yet. This is a really fundamental point, because I've done the numbers myself, and I did exactly what you did early on. I was actually trading CFDs when I first started investing way back when, and run the numbers, and I talk about this in the book. The fact that you can effectively, if you're only putting 10% deposit down and you're borrowing 90% of the value of the property, you're effectively 10 timesing the equity base that you're able to take control of. And if you look over time, in terms of the performance, while yes, the growth in shares might be higher, because you've got such a much higher asset base, then even at a lower percentage growth, you're still going to end up with a much bigger nest egg. To the tune of, I've done the numbers at 3.5 or 4 times more in equity at the end of the journey in property than we shares, because we're using other people's money, a la the banks, to soften that blow, and therefore leveraging the power of our own money and using less of it to control those growth assets. So yeah, great point there, mate. So go on with that. So when we talk about that, you started to realise that property had that opportunity. Do you have any initial fears or feelings of concern before you actually dove in and bought your first property?
The first property actually we didn't buy with the investment mindset. We actually bought our PPR in Sydney. We bought it in early 2021. February 2021. So luckily that was in the middle of Sydney boom, probably not even halfway. Talking about opportunity, we could have bought it in mid 2020 when COVID was at the peak and price was at the lowest. You probably can buy 200, 300K cheaper than what we bought it for. But I'm still grateful. We still live in the house. So when we bought that, we really used all our savings. And then because of that gaming, we ran out of money. Our budget actually went down. So we really used all our savings. We have to pay almost 40K of LMI because we can't put the deposit high enough. We bought for around 1.2 million. Thankfully, Sydney was booming. So I was looking in my neighborhood. Hang on a second, that house is quite similar. It's selling for almost 100K higher now. And then the following month, the same thing happened. So you start feeling the taste of capital growth, like surge, very high capital growth. And that's when I got really more interested in investing in property. So that was my first experience of property investment. So accidental investment capital.
Yeah, which is pretty common actually, but it's probably lit the fire that you saw, wow, this property's really jumped. Let's now invest. Talk to us about that journey. And what I'd like you to do is share what was your investment strategy when you first started. And I'm going to revisit that question once you've gone through your portfolio to look at how did that evolve and change over time. And let's get quite granular. Talk to us about what you bought, where, and why, and then how you've managed. Because one thing that a lot of people that listening to us today are going to be thinking as well, you've managed to build an incredible portfolio in a very short space of time. Take us through that to put some shape around how that journey worked out, and then we'll circle back and ask some other questions on top of that. So, what was your first investment property? What and where?
Yeah. So before I talk about the actual investment property, I want to quickly talk about the mindset first. So basically when I bought that house in Sydney and then I became self-employed. So right after that deal settled, I changed into self-employed and I couldn't borrow anymore basically. And I was busy buying furniture and the TV and the car and all those things that you don't really make, that you can buy secondhand. But then towards the end of 2021 or middle to end 2021, that's when I started thinking, okay, we got to start putting our extra saving into investment now. So I was still investing in shares back then. And then that's when I come across whether I should, how to buy. So I understand the concept, how it can multiply and make you wealthy. I just don't know the how, like how to actually execute it, right? So I was thinking of using a buyer's agent, trying to use and buyer's agent is not cheap, so, but then I came across obviously PK's YouTube, and that's when I was contemplating between taking the course or using buyer's agent. There was one time where I was having a camping trip with my basically best friend, and then I was exchanging ideas, right? So what do you think? Should I use buyer's agent? Someone's actually done it and get it done, or should I actually learn it myself? So he's one of those people you want to surround yourself with, because he always wants to see you succeed. And this is, I guess, life-changing moment for me, because he told me, it was just two of us in a camping trip, basically he was saying, if you educate yourself, it's going to stick with you forever. As long as you have done your due diligence, it's not a scam, it's a proper thing that will give you value, then I think you should do it. And if it doesn't work, just use the buyer's agent afterwards, right? So yeah, I ended up taking the course literally the 31st of December 2021. So that was the last decision I make in that year, and then smash through it. For someone who know nothing and have zero experience, is very, very valuable, and it's worth the money. For someone who's already done and have experience, they might not see the value. So it's different for everyone. For me, it was life changing, right? So, and that's how I did it. So I took the course and then bought my property. In February. That was in Perth, February 2022. That was in Perth, 4x2, 600 square meters, I think.
Yep.
380.
Nice.
It's really cheap.
Yeah. And a great time to be doing it before the hotspot wave has hit and every man, dog and buyer's agent has piled into WA. Yeah, so you grab that one, thread the needle, take us through the rest of your acquisitions. And what I like to focus on is how you were able to do it, given the changing borrowing capacity requirements of the banks and the equity contribution. How did you manage to weave that and build that ongoing portfolio so quickly and progressively?
Yeah, so even from the first investment property, I already came across challenges. This was when cash rate was 0.1%, February 2022. If you remember, cash rate hasn't gone up. My challenge was because I was a self-employed person, I couldn't get any proper lending, like standard lending. So, but this is where, because you already felt so much pain, there's a big sense of urgency. I have to make it happen no matter what. So I was talking to a few brokers. There was one that actually helped me to get a low doc loan.
Yeah, great.
Low doc was the answer for me. It was 2% higher thereabout, the interest rate. So when everyone was paying 1.9%, I was paying 4%, 4.2%.
And here, let me jump in here, because I think, again, this is a really important learning for people, because it's not about the rate of the loan, it's what the loan can do for you in terms of being able to secure the property. So if you're able to run the numbers and you can see that the growth and the cost is still going to be achievable and affordable, then don't let the rate of the loan get in the way of keeping you out of the market, because that's one of the biggest traps, that people just focus on the costs of the loan, whereas it's the capacity of the loan and what the loan enables you to do to build that equity base. That's really key, because as you know, the sooner you can secure the properties, the more you've got time, leverage and compounding returns doing its work. So I love the fact that you were able to go, okay, well, because most people go, oh, that's way too expensive, way too risky. You grabbed a low duck loan. Yes, you paid a rate premium for it, but it's secured the property. Continue.
Yeah, being very first investment property, you get a bit nervous, but because you now gain that confidence and there's community and people around you are doing the same thing, now you feel very confident because people around you are the right people now. So yeah, we bought that one in Perth in February 2022. And then we bought another one using the same lending strategy, which is in Cairns, actually. That was April 2022. So only 2 months after.
Yep.
Right. So we managed to have the deposit and then we bought it. The issue with that one, basically, it's the same thing with the first investment property. We just have to go load off and pay for it. I'll talk through the next one. And then the next one actually in Perth again, but this one is in July 2022. So if we all know, business owners, July is when you can lodge your tax. And that was like a big milestone for me because the purchase, the third investment purchase, that was funded by number 1 and number 2 investment properties.
Yep.
So at that time, it was July. Immediately, I get my tax done, all done. So now it's proper 1 full year of financials. Go to CBA because my wife works in the bank. They actually allowed me to do 90% leverage.
We don't let him know LMI if he's going for a bank. Yeah, perfect. Right.
So all of a sudden, I have the 10% from the first deal and the 10% from the second deal, plus their growth. And then that funded the third investment property, which is the one in Perth. 390, 4x2, 700, I think 800 square meters. So
love it. Now, another thing I just want to jump into there, I can understand why you were confident buying your property in Perth because you spent a lot of time in Perth. You knew that market. A lot of people, and increasingly people are becoming borderless in their approach, but the property in Cairns, was that sight unseen? Did you jump on a plane and go up and walk the streets? Talk to us about the confidence you had in buying in a location you hadn't spent much time in.
Yeah, the one in Cairns is actually one of the worst performing. Yeah, in comparison to the home we bought in Sydney, and that's it's doing pretty well. Annualized growth still about 15%, so it's still doing pretty well.
That's pretty good.
The growth only happened the last 12 months, right? Since then it was quite slow.
Yep.
No, I didn't go there. Just I utilized people on the ground to help me to do all my checks.
So property managers, building inspectors, is that who we're talking about?
Building inspectors, property managers, and some other locals, independent, which I spoke to.
Right.
I put a bit of emotion because it's got a nice mountain backdrops, which every house in Cairns do was house. So, and I was, again, I feel a sense of urgency. I actually paid, I think, around 5 or 10 grand above the what I assessed the market value was. But I just need to get time and compounding and leverage on my side. So I just quickly bought it. And it grew regardless, pretty well. So that was the challenge with that purchase. The one in Perth, the one funded by the first and second investment, that was easy. That was when interest rates started going up, so sentiment just dropped.
Yep.
Hindsight is a beautiful thing, but 390 in Perth, 4x2, close to the CBD, like you can't get it now. So it was less competitive for some reason at that time. And I remember I was on the way to my snowboard trip when I signed the contract on DocuSign. So it was a good decision, that one.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so we're starting to, we're up to, what are we up to, number 4 or 5 at this point in time? Take us through the rest of the journey.
Yeah, so that was investment property number 3. And then December, I think November or December on the same year, 2022, I went to Brockhampton. So yeah, Rockhampton is another hotspot even now. So I bought it December 2022. That was really cheap, only 320. And bought from Catholic Church. And the rent was $500 from the get-go. So it was stretching it to the high end, but it was from the get-go $500. So
awesome.
Yeah, and this one is where the challenge was I couldn't get any land. Basically, I ran out of serviceability at that time.
Right.
With the major banks, right?
Yeah. I
could go with the lower tiered bank, like tier 2 or tier 3, but the deal has to justify itself, right? But what I ended up going is we went with ANZ actually.
Okay.
They can do 1 year financial.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And for some reason, my mortgage broker worked his magic and we could borrow like 80%, actually 88% LVR even. Yeah. So,
nice.
So we bought it. It was supposed to be a renovation, kind of type of property, but it was actually not in the bad condition. And then, I think it sat vacant for like 1 or 2 months because we had a pretty bad property manager at that time. So it sat for like 1-2 months, and then we secured tenant right away. as it is without any renovation done. So yeah, that was pretty good.
So you're starting to hit the thresholds in relation to borrowing capacity, and your property equity is starting to get challenged as well. How were you able to leverage into the other properties as that progressed then?
Yeah, so that property we secured it, settled in January, and then I think in March or April, this is where I was helping a few other friends to help to buy. This is where I was basically looking for deals every day, right? And I know I don't have serviceability and all that. And then we came across this deal in Perth again. It's a suburb called Ballajura, in north of Perth. This was a really good deal, but
So you're in the buyer's agent's chair at this point in time?
I don't want to call it buyer's agent, so I just call it friend instead of clients. So
Okay.
So yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm trying to sell something, but basically, yes, I was looking for a friend, and then he's happy to pay me. And then it was this deal. This is March 2023, so only last year. Believe me or not, it was expensive in Perth for 500K plus last year, right? So he could, but he didn't want to spend more than 500 in Perth, right? But no matter how I saw this deal, it was a really, really good discount if I can secure it.
Yep.
I made like a lot of comparables, like from different angle. I tried to find faults with this property, but I can't. Like it's worth like 570, 580 minimum, and we bought it for 512. Ended up price. Yeah, fine. It's like 30 in Perth. You get good granny flat easily. So and I didn't have serviceability, Bushy. So what can I do? She said if there's a will, there is a way. So we went with the one of the most desperate lenders, which is La Trobe.
La Trobe, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so very, very. It's just like when you're really desperate, you need to buy something, you go with this guy. So yeah, I ended up doing it. A lot of stress. I was in Japan for holiday back then.
It was much of a holiday by the sounds of things.
It was a baby moon as well, so a lot of stress. Calling every day. But my broker made it happen, and then we ended up getting the finance on this one after multiple extension as well. 512, 5x2, I think 900 square meters in Perth.
And as you say, there's instant equity of 60 or 70 odd grand right off the bat.
Yeah, and that's how I justify the tier 3 lender, because even if it costs, I think interest rate was like 1.8% higher than normal bank, and then when you refinance, you have to pay like 3 months.
3 months. And I'd sort of get it. I mean, the banks have got to get their coin somewhere. So if you're going to exit early, then they're going to want to get some input for their effort. So I understand why they do that. But it certainly makes it challenging. And certainly you're stretching the friendship and taking it to the limits to make that happen at that time. But again, you look at the numbers like you have, it's worth taking that risk because there's instant equity right from the get-go. You've made money from day one as soon as you settle. So it makes complete sense to me. And again, the faint-hearted wouldn't do that. They wouldn't be prepared to stretch the friendship that much. But if you're serious about making money and taking that opportunity, you took it.
Correct. And to reinforce that point, Bushy, because it's in the cul-de-sac property, the property right behind it, I think 1 month later, sold for 640, almost identical, slightly better built. So back to back, so like a twin property. I actually met the owner. Like when I went to Perth early this year, had a tea with her, and we started talking about investment, and they're building granny flat, which we are planning to do at the exact same mirrored location. So
I love it.
Yeah, so 640 1 month later. So I think it justified my action. Yeah, and
100%. So we're really starting to hit the upper thresholds now, but we're still only early in the portfolio. So talk to us through what you did then and how you were able to actually make those purchases happen, because it's starting to get challenging now.
Yeah, so it's happening again. So I think there was March purchase, so settled in May. So a long settlement time because of my finance. And then I bought in Townsville in June 2023. I bought it in July. So again, past the tax time. So we got all our tax done. July 2023, we bought in Townsville. It was an on-market property sitting for 6 months. So yeah, but after that, I was looking for properties again for my friends and myself. And then we came across this property. It's really, really poorly marketed. This was the agent's last deal because she was retiring. So he was like,
Perfect.
yeah, he was like, this is my last deal. I'm retiring.
Lazy agent.
Yeah. And then the photo was really bad, like one of those upside down photos, like filming a Nokia or whatever, and really bad photos. And yeah, so 6 months on the market, we bought it 290K. Yeah. So but that's 4x1. Yeah. Big land as well, 700.
Did you have to spend much on it to get up to shape? It was just very badly marketed.
You need to pay, but we're still with the existing tenant and we haven't done any renovation at all. They're happy to go on.
I love it. Again, just jumping in here, what I love about this, Richard, is that you're so active in the market that when a good opportunity comes along and you're so familiar with those particular markets that and locations that you're playing in, that when an opportunity like that comes in, it's going to be very obvious. So, and the instant equity that you can secure by grabbing onto it. But the key here is, because a lot of people say, oh, you've just been lucky you found these properties. You only get lucky if you work hard enough. And it's by being that active and being able to see the outliers, because you've got such an intimate feel for what's happening in those locations, that you can then leap in and take advantage of that. So I love the level of activity that you're clearly putting into this to be able to identify those rare opportunities like this one, that a lazy agent who didn't put much effort in, therefore the property didn't look so good. For someone who can look beyond that to the opportunity there, you've grabbed that potential with both arms.
Absolutely. And value is different in everyone's eye. So some people might know that's really cheap, but they look at the photo and they ran away, right? So in my case, I was the same. Like photos look bad. Even the inspection doesn't look too good. I think there's a hole in the door, which you can replace for like $300. It's like a small...
Nothing. I like those. I love the ugly ducklings because it does tend to put a lot of people off. And with some very low cost facelift improvements, you can make a massive difference to both the yield and the value of the property. So I love that. Okay, so we grabbed that one. Where and how from there?
So yeah, I just want to quickly talk about that one. That one actually, that was being very tight. Like they wanted 305. I was sticking my hot gun like 290. I'm not gonna go any higher until a time where exactly next door, exactly the same property, but the only difference, it's got an extra garage and one less bedroom, but the same builder, same outlook. It was being marketed by a very high profile agent in that area. I knew because I've been tracking her sale profile. It always sells for a high number. They were asking for 300 from 335. So she always sells higher than the asking price. Yeah. So I knew like, I got to jump on this one. So I actually paid 300 pushy at first for this deal. And there was like 10%, difference. But then I negotiated afterwards with all the defects. So yeah, so I guess knowing that market, and who you're dealing with and the market condition, it can become powerful. Yeah. So
very powerful. Okay, so where'd you from there?
Next one was the day this property settled, in the one in Townsville. I actually signed another contract in Banduri this time.
Okay.
So that was August 2023.
Yep.
Yeah. So Banduri is doing really well. This was in a suburb, which, I tried to pick a market where it's a bit earlier. This was on the market again for 1 month, but it was only on domain. It wasn't on realestate.com.
Interesting.
Then when I checked, hang on a second, this is only 5-10 minutes from the beach, 4x2, really nice property with extra living room. Why is no one picking this one out? So and then I justified the value on that one, and we picked that one up for 520.
Yeah, like it.
In Banduri. So.
And again, I'm assuming that you're accumulating equity in the growth of the other properties, plus perhaps because your financials are looking better at this stage from the self-employed work, and you're able to to show more declarable gross taxable income, that's giving you the borrowing capacity to keep doing this, is it?
Yeah, from serviceability perspective, it's because because it's already past the tax time, so we already done all our tax, so all prepared.
Yep.
We are rewarded with serviceability by being organized.
Totally.
From capital perspective, it's a combination of obviously I got promotion at work, and also, and I'm not even a buyer's agent, like I wasn't using buyer's agents, whatever, in serviceability at this time. So, but because I was always self-employed, so you have a bit of better tax planning, as you know it. We can learn to yourself and pay before you submit the tax.
Exactly.
You know how to use that small window.
100%. It's a window that a lot of people don't take advantage of. And I often say to investors, if you're self-employed in the year that you want to borrow money, make sure you don't have too many claimables, because if that's going to affect your gross taxable income, that's going to really clip your wings and hamstring you in terms of building your portfolio.
Yes.
So, no, I love that. So you grab that one, and I think you're back to Queensland for the next one. And so far, all of these properties have been standalone homes on a block of dirt. I know that the last few properties, from what you've shared with me before we started, you're starting to move into, you've been in growth, but you're going to start shifting into potentially higher cash flow exercises. And I'll circle back to strategy in a minute, but talk to us about the next one in Queensland.
The next one actually in Brisbane, Bushy. So because I missed the Brisbane market, so I really want to buy one in Brisbane, but the best time was 2020, 2021 in Brisbane probably. So 2021, I used my money for my home in Sydney. Could have bought in Brisbane for like 300, 350. But so yeah, I realized I missed the window to buy in Brisbane. So I was looking in that Morrison Bay area where it's still good. The data is still looking good, but houses were already 600, 700K. Yeah. So no matter how I look at it, I can't justify a market that's already grown 40, 50, 60, 70%, right? So ended up picking up a villa actually.
Right.
So about 200 square meters, 3x2, a real bargain on this one, because comparable was like 490, 500, 520. This one we picked for 450. Yeah. So yeah, for the sake of diversification and putting an egg in Brisbane market, and also for the sake of, that's my budget. So we ended up picking a good discounted deal.
Yeah, I love that. And you then continue with some units in Queensland. Tell us about those.
Yeah. So the next one is actually, it's a standalone. This is back in Townsville. This is in January this year, actually. So this is actually a duplex. So it's not a unit. So it's actually a standalone house, 3x2 on the 800 square meters, but it's got 2 kitchens, 2 toilets, 2 living rooms, so you can rent it separately. This was the first taste of a really high cash flow property. It's giving 11% yield. So,
nice.
I think we borrowed 90% LVR. It's still positive cash flow even after all that. So yeah, this was pretty good. 330 we picked up for. So. Yeah. And then from here, it's pretty much, just continue scaling. The next one I'll talk about. So my buying window is normally between July and January.
Why? Because of the financials.
Yeah, because of tax. After you submit tax at your shopping time and you have windows, and then you go on hibernation for a few months until the next tax time. So I haven't been active since January until July. So just basically looking at markets. Yep. And then I bought in Melbourne in July 2024. So that was only 5 months ago.
In Brisbane.
So, and this is, I tried to get into the Melbourne market early and get experience there and build relationship and all that.
Is this part of your diversification strategy? Because in the context of all the media hype at that time, Melbourne was pretty much on the nose. What made you think that it's worth putting the ore into Victoria at that time?
Diversification is one thing, because I'm very exposed to WA and Queensland.
Yep.
Right. So, and Melbourne, I do see value because I do make a lot of comparison between, okay, what happened if we put this house in the same suburb with similar income and similar proximity to CBD in Perth, and do it the same for Sydney, and do it the same. I didn't do for Brisbane. Actually, I probably did for Brisbane. Yeah. And then I can see it's actually cheaper than a property in Perth, and when I check with Sydney, there is similar suburb in Sydney who actually grew like to the 1 million plus now, even though it was bad. And then you have suburbs like Blacktown, Campbelltown, like it had a really bad stigma, right? But probably one of the best performing suburbs. So I realized, okay, if I can buy in Melbourne for diversification, come in early, buy at a good price, there's no rush, then I'll give it a go, yeah. And then we did, yeah. So we bought it there, 560 in Melbourne. So
Love it. And then again, without going too much further on this, you bought some units in Queensland, a couple of sets of units, another property in WA. Tell us quickly about those.
sure. So after that Melbourne purchase, I went back to Townsville because I was just presented a really good cash flow property. So it's a standalone 900 square meters, but again, you can rent it to two separate family.
Yeah.
So that's a bit expensive, 700, 760. Around
Good. So a decent cash flow yield given.
Yeah, it's $1.5 grand cash flow. So that's positive even at 100% finance. So
Love it.
and then the next one I bought it recently in October. That's in Geraldton actually.
Yep.
So it's relatively early. That's really cheap, 350. I bought it there for 800 square meters, 3x1 brick homes. Where can you get it?
I love it.
And it's a big city, like it's a big town for 40 years.
Yeah, it's got critical mass. There's no question.
Yeah, so that one is done, and then we bought another one, a block of units actually. This one is in Mackay. So I don't think Mackay is at the bottom of the cycle, but it's still relatively early compared to some of the other markets. So we picked a block of units there. So
yeah, I love it. So I guess threading the needle through all of this, because everyone's going to be going, how the hell have you managed to keep doing this? Because most people hit the ceiling pretty early. What I'm hearing is that, one, you've got the equity growth, so there's your deposits that are funding it, even though it's 100% borrowings. But I'm also sensing that you're able to keep increasing your incomes collectively between your partner and the bank, and what you're doing, both employed and in the business side. You're able to continue to improve your borrowings because your income collectively is growing at the same time. Am I right in saying that?
yeah, so up until property number 10, including the home, so 9 investment properties. So we only use our engineering and banker. My wife is a banker, serviceability.
Yeah.
After that, starting the Melbourne one, because that one is in July, August, that's when obviously the real estate business starts.
Got it. And again, what I'm liking here is that you're buying cheaper properties. So you're not maxing yourself out early. You're diversifying and creating a number of opportunities that allows you to keep going on that. But you've been enjoying pretty rapid growth because you're going into areas at the right time. Tell us, I'd love for you to share what your investment strategy has been, both early on, because most people start with one strategy and then it starts to evolve and change over time. Take us through your thinking on that, if you can.
Yeah, so my strategy when I first started was simply just to get into the market. So the first property that was 10,000 above what I think the market value was, because there was literally the same better property selling for 370. So I bought this one for 380, which is not better but more expensive.
Yeah.
So and that was because you were starting out, so you're trying to get into the market quickly, and it's been rewarding. That property is worth almost 700 now, even though I bought it above market, right? So
yeah.
So that was first, and that's the same with the second one. When I bought the third investment property, that's when I started to don't want to overpay. I want to get it below market and start training myself that way. And subsequent purchases always like that. You try to buy it below market. Now it's coming. Fast forward to now, I'm trying to either focus on the cash flow properties, which hopefully were more than likely positive cash flow from day one at 80% LVR. Or I buy in a market that is early, like Melbourne, regional Victoria and regional New South Wales. That is still not yet certain, but the signs are showing. So that's what I'm doing now, and potentially commercial property as well. Yeah. So, but I'm still educating myself in that front.
Yeah, and you're getting the equity growth to do that. Projecting forward, then, given that the sizable exercise that you have, what's your ideal lifestyle, and when is your ideal lifestyle going to kick in?
Yeah, so ideal lifestyle. So actually on my desktop, I have like a vision board showing what it looks like. So I'm just gonna look at it. So I can see a picture of snow here. So that will be like I want to do as much as possible if I can. I can see just a standard car, family car, where we can, maybe go camping, go to the snow. I can see flying first class. So I can't justify the cost now, even though we can do it, but it costs like $10,000, and
Totally.
it's hard to justify. Maybe we will explore like credit card hack and all that stuff. Maybe that will work.
Exactly.
And then my wife wants to go to Hawaii, so we'll try to make that happen within the next 1 to 2 years. In Canada, and then we've got 2 children. That's what we have envisioned. So ideal lifestyle is really having able to do all of this without thinking that money is part of the equation. So it doesn't guarantee happiness, right? It doesn't guarantee happiness, but it's a big part of the equation.
It is 100%. It's the fuel that basically enables you to do what you're doing. You sound like a detailed planner. When is your ideal lifestyle?
So I have a target 2030. So that's in about 5 years, 6 years. So that's why I'm started already buying cash flow properties now, because these properties are actually covering the negatively geared properties. So it's really...
Yeah, I love that. The other question I want to ask alongside that, and it goes hand in hand with your approach to life, because what I'm sensing is there's and the reason I'm sensing this is a bit of an addictive personality, and the reason I can see that is I've got an addictive personality myself. I'm either all in or all out. There's nothing in between. What I'm sensing is you went all into gaming, and then you went all into property, and you're still all into property. How much is enough for you?
I think as long as we are still enjoying the process, and then somewhat providing value, I think there is no end really. So there's obviously milestones in between. So the 2030 is my milestone where, okay, if I don't want to like zero work, my wife and I, the cash flow from these properties are enough for our humble lifestyle, like going holidays and paying the mortgage and all that stuff. But that doesn't mean we will stop there, because that's just a milestone, right? So I think as long as we are providing value, you love what we are doing, and then you're good at it, money will follow. Like it's an automatic byproduct of if you are doing something good and offering value for people. So yeah, if that's the case, then continue on. So
yeah, okay, no, love that. Something I just want to touch on, and there'll probably be some of those listening in that have got this question on your mind. You've managed very astutely to purchase properties in growth cycles in the suburbs and areas that you've gone into, perhaps with the exception of the Cairns property to some degree. What, if anything, will your approach be when these areas and properties inevitably go through their slight price correction? Because most areas that overspring come back a little bit, and then they quite often go, or they plateau or go sideways for a period. Has that been in your thinking? And what, if anything, will you do differently when that starts to occur?
That is definitely in my thinking. My philosophy now, and it can change later because you always learn and grow. Yeah. If I don't have to sell, I probably don't have to sell. But if I have to sell, I already know which one I want to sell. Yeah. So the one in Perth, they're basically 2 suburbs next to each other. I'll probably sell one when the indication is they're at the peak. And then there's also one in Townsville, because I've got 3 in Townsville, and they've made a lot of money. But I think having, that's probably just to reduce the risk into an area, right? So I already know which one I want to sell. If I really have to come the time when maybe my serviceability is already at limit, or maybe I can repurpose that money, profit, capital into somewhere else. So yeah, it's probably in at least 1, 2, or 3 years from now.
Yeah, and I love that, because it's a cost benefit analysis. If you can be using those funds to put into an asset that it is going to continue to grow versus something that's going to go sideways, once you do your numbers, selling cost, buying cost, tax implications, it's still a more positive opportunity. Why wouldn't you do that? So, and I love the fact that you're actually been thinking about that, because a lot of people don't. They just set, forget, and then walk away. But if you're going to continue to grow, then that's the real opportunity. Just to sort of putting a bow around this, what do you say to others that are just starting to invest, or those that feel stuck because they don't believe they've got the equity or the buying capacity required to continue to build their portfolios?
I think it all comes down from the big why before anything but property. You know, it applies to everything. You have to feel the pain that you need to do something about it. Like, I haven't been going to, I did start again yesterday, but I haven't been going for 1 month because I just got back from overseas and I was sick for a few weeks. I feel like if I don't do something like going to exercise, which ironically I didn't this morning, even though I was trying to, I feel it like I have to do it. Like, that's why tomorrow morning I will wake up earlier and actually start implementing the habit again. Why am I doing that, Bushy? Because I know if I don't do this habit, start getting momentum, in 6 months, or even worse, in 10 years, I will look at myself and hate myself. So I feel that pain already, even though it's not there, right? It's the same with property, but we're talking about financial here. You're a doctor, you earn 500K a year or even more, a lawyer. What if you stop working, right? So what will happen? Can you actually do the same kind of lifestyle you're doing now? Or do you want to downgrade your lifestyle, right? So feel that pain, you know, like if you stop working. If you think that's a problem, then you have to find a solution. For me, property is the solution, right? Because it's proven, it's predictable, somewhat predictable, less risky than business or crypto. Crypto is doing really well now. So, but yeah, so for me, that's why. Like, start thinking the future first, see where you want to be and how you want to be, and start thinking that time is actually your most precious resource, because you can't get your years back. Like, once it's gone, it's gone. Like, say you live until 85, maybe 75, who knows? But after 70, it's like, it's a bonus, to be honest. After 70 years old, probably a bonus.
Totally right.
How do you want to live your life, you know, in your 50s?
100%. So, yeah, exactly. Back yourself having to go. Well, what about the growing number of people who have hit the threshold? They've hit the ceiling because they a lot of them are struggling with borrowing capacity. What do you say to them? Because you've continued to be able to just power ahead and build your portfolio. What do you say to those that feel like they've hit the limit?
Do you really have to buy now? If you do, then you have to find a way. Speak to a lot of brokers, find a good one. Speak to Bushy as well. So, you know, you will find a way. Like, I've got friends who are buying in her late 50s now, right? So, but she found a way. She found a good broker and she got pre-approval, so ready to buy. So, but you gotta feel that pain first. Like, do you really have to buy? If you don't have to, then don't force yourself. Don't put yourself in a situation where your extra saving doesn't cover your cost to hold the properties. So you have to know how much you can save first, and then how much buffer you can have. If you can save $1,000 a month, but the property is costing you $2,000 because it's in Melbourne, maybe, then don't do it, because you'll be very negative, you know. So unless you can actually increase your saving by adjusting your lifestyle or increase your payment. So yeah, so start taking action, start feeling the needs to do it. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're under the water. And yeah, once those are clear, really start taking action, because the market's not waiting for you.
And exactly right. Exactly right. Well, if you were to sort of boil down the key takeaways from your journey so far for those that are either wanting to get into it or actively in it, what would you be saying?
Yeah, to me, it's always taking action and start getting momentum. Very important. Don't let your cash be eroded by inflation in your bank accounts. Because the reason I just think as it comes to my head, I know a lot of people with 600K, 700K savings. And I think their mindset is money is like scarce. They have scarcity mindset. They are afraid of lose that money that doesn't do anything anyway in the bank, and giving you 5%, so what? Or 6% offset, so what? So be the head. So because money is a terrible master, but excellent servant. If you are the head, money will follow where you go. So you want to reinvest, let that money work hard for you, for your future. If you are the tail, you will follow where the money is. You will hang tight to that money, and you will still like, yeah, it is not enough of it. But you don't need 700K in your bank account. It's not gonna do anything, right? So
It's going backwards. It's actually going backwards.
it goes backwards.
Rate of inflation. Love that. Given you're very active in the marketplace and scanning what's happening around the country, what's your read on property investment conditions in the medium to short term over the next 12 plus months? And what's your thoughts on where and what are the best opportunities, particularly for growth investors?
Yeah, so different area will present you with different outcomes, right? Obviously, having bought in many different towns, I can see timing and outcomes are different. It doesn't like means one area is the best for, because everyone expects different outcome and need different outcomes. So in terms of the short to medium, it's regional Queensland, WA are still showing the strength there. The downside, you're not buying at the bottom of those markets, so you're not gonna pick up the whole boom cycle there. But if you need those equity quickly, that's the market you need to get into, right? If you really wanna take a bit of calculated risk and pick up the most of the boom, probably Victoria is showing value. Some people even said Darwin, right? So, and I know a lot of people, successful investors, were bought there. Like actually, you bought 4 or 5 over there.
Yep.
And they already have 15 properties to begin with. So they calculated those risks. So Darwin, I wouldn't buy there myself yet for now, but I'm actively in Victoria and Melbourne now in particular. The only thing is you have to be able to hold those properties because they are negative in cash flow. And the growth might happen. My prediction is at most is 2.5 years from today. It will start the boom cycle. It can be as early as 6 months to 12 months. Yeah, but so there's less certainty. But
What makes you say that?
yeah, it's just one of the things we look at is the past 10 years of growth. So I think in Melbourne in particular, I think the last 10 years it's still showing strength. It's done really well, but the last 7 years basically done nothing. There are people. The property I bought is the same price from 2018, 2017, right? So
yeah,
so it can't stay for that long, for a while. So
and with the population growth and the fundamentals being so strong, I think Melbourne, Victoria has suffered from mainstream media paralysis because of such negative messages being sent out.
It can turn in a single click, right? It just goes the other way. So so I did take the risk there, and it probably hasn't grown too much since I bought it. So where I could have made 50, 100 grand in Queensland since I bought it in July. So, but that's anticipated outcome. So
totally. Well, you're in early and you can ride the wave when it does occur. And I mean, everyone's talking about it now. So that always tells me that the focus, because people will start piling in, and then next thing you know, you'll start to see values rise. So you've got into the time before the hordes. So you'll do well. Then if you are starting out again, what, if anything, would you invest your time, energy, and money in differently then?
Differently, I don't know, Bushy. I'm pretty happy, and I think I made smart decisions until now. Obviously, if I knew what I knew from Property One, I'd probably do it slightly differently, so a bit more patient. But you have to go through that journey. If this is your first, second property, don't let analysis paralysis stop you from getting into the market. Always, property is very predictable. If you get into the right market, not overpay too much, you will see results anyway, right? So yeah, I wouldn't do much differently, Bushy. So
perfect. Let's jump straight into what I like to call the ambush round, Richard, where there's just a couple of quick questions that everyone likes to glean your words of wisdom. Starting with, what books have changed your life the most?
So I like the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think it set up my soft skill really good throughout my career, and then it led to job promotion, more borrowing talent. So it's a domino effect from high school. I learned that. So yeah.
Great book. It's I mean, I'm showing my age now, but that book really inspired me. I read it back in the 80s, and it really energized me to do things differently. And if I hadn't read that book, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. That's how much influence it's had. So I love that. If you could have coffee with anyone, be that an alive or a dead historical figure, who would you choose and why?
I'll have it Bushy Martin, yeah. In person for coffee, why not? Always feels different in person, right?
Yeah, I love it. I love that. That is awesome. What's the worst and the best piece of investment advice you've ever received?
The worst, the worst probably stop buying more properties from my mom. So because they always have the old mindset, oh, stop taking debts. You're all rolling over too much debt. And even though she has felt the boom in Perth, she's got, actually our family got a few properties in Perth, but always, that's probably one of the worst. The best one is keep buying property.
Yeah.
I don't know who gave that advice. I just felt like someone's telling me to keep going on. So.
Love it. Love it. If you could wave a magic wand and change anything, what would you change about property investing?
This can be double-edged, but you know how in America they can lock in 2% interest rates for 20, 30 years?
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't be good for Australian macroeconomy, but it would be nice to have that.
100%. You have certainty over what your costs are. I've got property in the US and I couldn't believe it. We paid cash for them, but when I was looking at the lending market over there, I couldn't believe they were offering fixed rates for 30 years and still very, very good rates. They were, with similar rates to here, but you get locked them in for 30 years. I mean, incredible. No, great suggestion. I'm a big fan of habits, what create our destiny. So I'd love you to share a personal happy habit, a rewarding ritual or daily discipline that you've employed on a consistent basis that's contributed most to your success.
Yeah, so going to exercise, start going to the gym early in the morning. I think that becomes my me time, and then listening to podcasts. So you're still educating yourself and getting your body moving actually. So that's really a really good habit that actually I've done this morning. But next one is spending time with Hugo, which is my son. He is 14 months now. It's just so amazing. And this is what makes you realize time is really, really precious, because it only felt like yesterday you couldn't do anything. Now he's running around saying hi to me. Like, time is very precious, especially when you start seeing your son or daughter growing very quickly. And going to the snow. That's the ultimate goal. So like we're going many times, like 4 or 5 times now. So we start practicing living our ideal lifestyle now. So even though, to be fully transparent, the properties we bought haven't really served us, as in terms of cash flow. I mean, I can sell half of them and live off the cash flow. I can do that if I want to, but we already start practicing and making it a real lifestyle now. So we went to holiday, visit our family overseas. We can do that now because we have the flexibility to do that.
Yeah, I love it. And you make a good point, because I think there's a fallacy that the properties that you buy early on are going to fund the lifestyle. They're not. That what they're going to do is grow the nest egg that you could then convert to the cash flow at the end of the journey that will fund your lifestyle for as long as your heart keeps beating. So that's the real opportunity there. What's one final thought that you want to leave us with?
To the audience, to everyone. Yeah, look, always happy to connect with people, to like have this kind of conversation. It doesn't have to be recorded like this. Having a coffee, if you're beginners or you're experts. If you're experts, I want to learn more. If you're beginners, I want to share my learning. And I always learn even from beginners, because sometimes they have the brightest idea you never thought of. Like for some reason, how would I not think about those things, right? So yeah. So but the thing is, start taking action. Yeah, getting educated, start taking action. Property really rewards action taker. Like me, for example, made money by accident by buying my place to live in, right? Obviously, it's better if you calculate the decision, but over the long term, it always makes money, right?
Love it. Taking action is the absolute key. Talk's cheap, and a lot of people are doing it, but actually getting your hands dirty, rolling up the sleeve and taking the action is where the rubber really hits the road. So, and you are the perfect example of that, because I hear increasingly people who say, oh, it's too hard now, I've missed the boat, it's all right for you, as I've mentioned in the intro, but you're living proof that you can still make it happen. You've just got to have the passion and take the action necessary to make it happen. And if the obvious routes aren't open, keep searching, keep asking questions, find the people that are going to help you to get there, as you have done and continue to do. Last question, if I ask you to get invested, what does it mean to you?
Get invested, what it means to me, get invested. So I didn't prepare for this one. So what does get invested mean? So I think it's not just about property or money. It's also about your time. I'm a firm believer, whilst property is making you money, but at the end of the day, it's the lifestyle you wanna live in. So I sent you an attachment, Bushy. I don't know if you saw it. It's like a box with numbers in it from 1 to 85, representing age of people. And you see every year it's gone by, you become older and older. It's about get invested, meaning living your best life. It's actually, if you look at that attachment, there's a few ages that I highlight in green. That's what I want to live my best life be. Like, I don't know how it looks like. I have an idea of how it's going to look like, but it might change. But don't be like 95, 99% of people may work until 65, 67, because the government tells us that's when you retire. Don't be like 95, 97% of people. You only have one life on this earth. How do you want to live it? Start get invested, and
totally.
It doesn't have to be property, it can be businesses, crypto, whatever, shares. But ask yourself, how do you want to live your one and only life on this earth?
Exactly. We don't get much time, so we've got to optimize it while we're here. And if you're open to it, we'll share that spreadsheet in the show notes, because it's a real, what I love about that is you are thinking with intent around how you want your life to be. Just taking that action makes a massive difference. And I love the way that you've actually done that and color-coded it, so you're really clear on how that, and yes, it may change, but at least it gives you a GPS that's going to guide you and motivate you to continue to invest as you currently have. So look, we've only just scratched the surface, Richard. I'd love to get you back at a future time to talk to about more issues that are near and dear to both of our hearts. But I just want to thank you for taking the time today to both inspire and educate us on how we can still achieve financial freedom through property, despite our current challenging times that everyone talks about. But before we go, if anyone watching or listening would like to explore further how you can free up your time and create an income for life by investing in property properly, whether you're new to the game or an experienced investor or property player, feel free to explore your why, what, and how of successful property that also impacts my 4 decades of property and life experience by tapping into our recently released Freedom Formula course program that you can enjoy anytime, anywhere at your leisure, just by clicking the link in the show notes now or going to bushymartin.com.au/Freedom Formula course, where the first module is totally free. And you can then decide if you'd like to donate a small amount where the profits go to a charity for the homeless, so you can then complete it. In addition, if you'd like to confidentially delve deeper into your specific needs or challenges, feel free to book in with me for a personal solution session by clicking the link in the show notes. It takes you to the knowhowproperty.com.au webpage, where you'll have the complete, dedicated and undivided attention of my 40 years of investment experience to help you solve your challenges and answer your questions for a full hour. And to continue our great conversations with other like-minded investors and learn in a safe, sound and supporting environment where you can ask any question and get answers without any of the BS, in a place where you'll never be sold to or pressured to do anything, join us in our Property Hub Collective interactive Facebook community by clicking the link in the show notes. And that brings us to the end of another great property investment conversation. So remember to always get invested in your knowledge and your network before you invest in your assets. So thanks again for getting invested, and let's keep the conversation going, Richard.
Sure. Thank you, Bushy.
Thanks for tuning in to Get Invested on the Property Hub podcast channel, your home for property investment insights and inspiration. Make sure you subscribe to Property Hub for free. Get your weekly dose of Get Invested inspiration along with every episode of Realty Talk. Australia's top online property show for red-hot property investing news and insights direct from industry leaders and influencers. And finally, I'll see you next time.